On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, why are Thunder fans preemptively mad about the NBA trade deadline? Rotation changes might be coming, playoff matchups that are going to get the Thunder fans excited, but where could they go in the postseason? Where could they find success? We'll talk about it all on today's Locked On Thunder podcast.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, media member, editor-in-chief over at thunderousintentions.com, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, lothunderpod@gmail.com. On today's show, brought to you by LinkedIn, we're diving into your mailbag questions from Twitter and Reddit between favorable playoff matchups, trades, evaluating the current roster, and more. So a lot to get to today. Very excited about that. And today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs, helping you find qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. So let's open up the mailbag. We take questions from Reddit, from Twitter. Got a lot of entries that might trickle into Monday because, of course, Saturday for the bonus podcast, we will recap this Brooklyn Nets game. So it might trickle into Monday, but still. The first one comes from Reddit. Recent Curve says, is no one angry that OKC refuses to make a trade? They have the opportunity right now to be contenders, and instead they keep hoarding their picks, and they won't ever be able to afford or develop just due to the sheer amount. Make some trades while you have a top 5 player on your team. And this has been a growing sentiment around social media, both with Thunder fans and non-Thunder fans, and just an overall talking point about the organization. And I just think it's so premature. Why is everyone preemptively mad about the Thunder not doing something that's 5 weeks away? We are 5 weeks away from the NBA trade deadline. Trades rarely happen in this window for any team under any circumstances, which is why the OG Anunoby trade was such a kind of shock to the NBA culture world, because we just rarely see that. You might get one of those a year. So the fact that there's been no trade made to this point should not be alarming or shocking or even noteworthy. And if you just go back and look at the history of Sam Presti, every year at the trade deadline that he's had a good basketball team, which this team obviously is, he's improved that team at the trade deadline, including last year when he went out and got Dario Saric, who was an improvement over Mike Muscala, which we called on this show the day of the trade deadline. So I think that everyone is just wanting to be mad or guessing and wanting to be mad about what the Thunder are going to do, because they're not going to do anything flashy or gaudy at the trade deadline, but they still, I think, will do something that helps upgrade their team. But to those people who are just like up in arms about the Thunder not capitalizing on this opportunity, who is out there that would be this magic elixir? There are only a few problems with this Thunder team, the most important being their lack of experience and their age. Okay, so let's say you trade for an older player. Well, some of the biggest names out there is like Lauri Markkanen. What wisdom can Lauri Markkanen embark on this team? Well, what wisdom can he share? Sure, he's technically older, but he also lacks experience in those battles that we're discussing. The Thunder have no problem winning night in and night out in the regular season. But the problem is whenever you're forecasting, hey, how do you survive a 7-game series? How do you keep in check during that time? Like, one person is not going to change that, because at the end of the day, no matter who they change, no matter who they trade for, it's not going to change the hierarchy. Like, your hierarchy is going to be SGA, Chet, and Jalen Williams. Like, that's going to be your core. And on any given night, Jalen Williams and Chet, of course, can flip, but like, that's going to be your 3 guys who you're depending on the most. And so who is this magic elixir that can fix everything and that is flashy enough and available to go get? Because if you went and traded for a top player in the NBA, that still does not help this team in terms of like maximizing that window, because we've seen what it looks like when you trade superstars or stars or even all stars team to team at the deadline. It's not enough runway to really get adjusted, to really find your stride. It's really a trade for the next season where you have a whole training camp and a whole summer, and you're able to have a whole, then of course, 82 game season before your next playoff test. So I think that people just get confused or get too excitable or think in the way of like NBA 2K, like team building in that realm. If they went out and traded for Lauri Markkanen, they'd have less than half a year to go and figure out how to play together, which he's coming from being, the number one option in Utah. The Thunder already have a number one option and a number two option and a number three option. You've got to find out how to make that gel and work together. And you got to find out where Lauri Markkanen likes to play, how he likes to play, where he likes the ball, all that good stuff. That's going to take the rest of this season. And it's not going to be a well-oiled machine, I don't think, by the postseason, should that happen. So even that trade does not impact this team in the way that you are describing or longing for or mad about. Right? The best way to help this team would actually be something on the margins where there's more of a clear, defined, and cut role for that player. Because there is no trade to fix the inexperience. There is no trade to fix the lack of understanding how to maneuver through a playoff series, because your coach doesn't have any playoff experience, and really your entire roster doesn't. Like, I know SGA played in 2 playoff series, but he was a rookie with the Clippers, and he did a fantastic job. He played really well in that series for his minutes with Doc Rivers, even in Oracle, even against Golden State. He played really well. And then, in the bubble, he was, there. This was not who he was, though. He was not the number one option. So, like, this is his first playoff series as a number one option, as a go-to guy, as a top of the scouting report kind of player. The play-in last year and this year. Lu Dort, again, he got to play in the bubble. He's a totally different player than he was in the bubble. So, like, and the bubble, of course, didn't have any crowd. There was no travel. There was none of that. So, for all intents and purposes, this is everybody's first go around at the postseason, even though they technically have postseason games in their basketball reference column. So, there's not going to be a single player who you can bring in and can just be like a Yoda. I've never seen Star Wars. I think that's a good reference. Like a Yoda to just kind of explain everything to these young players in half of a basketball season, and then all of a sudden truly change that dichotomy of what they can achieve this year. That's just not available. And training for a big star, it just isn't going to work out for this specific season. So when you look at it that way, why not just let this season ride out? And when I say that, it's not don't do anything, but like, let's just use a placeholder name. Why not make your biggest move be, hey, go get Kelly Olynyk, who's playing really good basketball. You go get Kelly Olynyk, that's your biggest move, that's your biggest upgrade, but it doesn't really change the wrinkles of what this team is, of what your rotation is too much. Like, it doesn't really change anything. You kind of slot him into that kind of J. Will minutes and kind of play him in that way, give him more minutes than J. Will, but of course, play him in that way to where the bread and butter of this team does not change. And you get to ride it out, see how they handle the rest of an 82-game season, see how they handle the postseason. And then in the summertime, you have even more data points to go make a big move that people are craving for, to go evaluate what would you need, because it is so hard to predict what this team's going to need because they've never been in this spot before. Like you see it with Lu Dort. Like, that's a perfect example of some players just rise up to the occasion. In big games, elimination games, the stats with Lu Dort of what he's able to do in that setting. So, like, he's a totally different player in the postseason. So for whatever flaws or anything that you think that he has in the regular season, he just changes the way he plays when it's that kind of level. On the flip side, some of these players who we think are just fantastic are not going to be as good in the postseason. That's just the reality of the situation. You've got to find that stuff out, and you can't skip out on that, or you can't assume and be wrong. Because if you assume and you're wrong, it really, really hampers you. But my overarching point is that while I don't think the Thunder are going to go trade for an all-star plus level player, I also don't think the Thunder are going to do nothing, right? Like, I think that they're going to do something at the deadline. So everyone who's preemptively mad that they're just going to sit here and do nothing, I think is a bit flawed, but also if they were to do that, they're a 20-10 team right now. What exactly are you banging down the door for the Timberwolves to do? Like this is just going to be something that I think is going to be a disconnect for this season because of all the ways we just listed out. But I think they're going to do something. I think it will be like a Kelly Olynyk type of move. Someone in that realm of his caliber. I don't think it'll be something dramatic, but I think it'll be something because that's what Sam Presti's track record says. So like, I don't really know how it gets kind of misconstrued that like Sam Presti never does anything. He's been pretty aggressive like throughout his career. Obviously, you're not going to be aggressive whenever you're winning 24 games. So like, I think that we've let recent memory skew that a little bit. But even last year, he really improved this team, getting Saric and kind of cleaning up some of the margins of the team, like getting Bazley traded and collecting second-round picks. Like he got value. He got value and improved the team last year. Like you could not have worked a deadline any better last year if you're Oklahoma City. But nonetheless, we'll talk more about your mailbag questions. But first, I want to say right now about our good friends over at LinkedIn. Folks, LinkedIn is awesome. LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNBA. Go there right now because it's the start of the new year. And every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move I can make that will take my business to the next level in 2024? That could be you. LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success is all dependent on your team that you surround yourself with. So like your team is going to help you lead to better success for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created a tool to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn has all the job boards that you can need because they have a vast network of 1 billion professionals that are there. The best place to hire is LinkedIn because they're all in one place for you. It's easy to hire the most qualified candidates and see them. And in fact, 86% of small businesses get qualified candidates within 24 hours of their job post. So go there right now because this is why the small businesses rank LinkedIn number one in delivering qualified hires versus their leading competitors. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and they're doing so many things that they might not have the time or the resources to hire. Well, thankfully, LinkedIn has a process that is intuitive, is quick, and is easy. That way you can be able to make those hires that you want. So go there right now, post your job for free. You can post that job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. Terms and conditions apply to post your job for free. Also want to say right now, but our friends over at BetterHelp. BetterHelp is great. I think that BetterHelp has a lot of benefits for you because it's a new year and you can think to yourself, how can I better myself and my life in 2024? Maybe you're already crushing it and you just want to celebrate that. You can have a new year and you can go and kind of improve on your life with the benefits of therapy. And BetterHelp, what I think is so good is that in the new year, it's 2024, everyone has jobs, a life, family, multiple jobs, side hustles, everything else. Everyone is really overextending themselves in the year of our Lord 2024. And with BetterHelp, if the only thing holding you back from the wonders of the benefits of therapy has been time constraints, has been trying to navigate your life of, well, I can't make time to go to a physical building right now. BetterHelp is totally online and totally flexible around your schedule. So what you do with BetterHelp is that you go and you fill out this questionnaire, and then they're going to match you with a licensed therapist, and you're going to go and hopefully connect with that therapist. But if you don't, you can just restart and get a new therapist for free until you find the right one that can really help you push past whatever positive coping skills you might need, or help you set boundaries, or just simply empower yourself to be a better version of yourself. So make sure you go check them out today because BetterHelp is awesome. You can start your therapy at BetterHelp.com right now. It's entirely online, designed for your convenience, flexibility, and suited for your schedule. Check it out today and celebrate the progress you've already made by going to BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. And when you do, you get your first 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. That Took a long time for the first question. This will have to be a two-part mailbag, so I do apologize if you don't hear questions. You're going to hear it on Monday, but we do have to recap the Nets game tomorrow, so you'll hear it on Monday. At Sarah Rebuild on Twitter says, it looks like there are 6 more times this year when travel is involved in a back-to-back. Is that more common this year league-wide, or did I not pay close enough attention that teams have been getting it at 5 a.m. and having to play? Should we expect Kenrich Williams to rest on the second night of all back-to-backs? So yeah, back-to-backs have always been a staple of NBA schedules. Now, the getting in at 5 a.m., 4 a.m. stuff, that is, obviously something that can happen to NBA teams and to anyone. Like anyone can have playing difficulties. I mean, if you remember when Russ was here, they had a bird hit their plane, which was insane, which obviously delayed them. So like that's just part of like normal travel. You don't always get in at 5 a.m. Oftentimes it goes smoother than that, but they had, of course, something happen. They didn't get into Atlanta till 4 a.m. The other night, and they were obviously very fatigued. So yes, this is very common. It's why that there's a cliche NBA, scheduled loss, but hopefully the flight travels will be much smoother and safer, and not safer, but smooth. I hope it's safe too, but smoother and less time constraint wise in the future. But yeah, this does happen. As far as Kenrich Williams, I would not want to guarantee anything about Mark's rotations in the regular season, but I think it might be possible that it's best for both sides to try to rest him as much as possible on these back-to-backs. I mean, he's almost 30 years old. He's had back spasms that held him out of the early part of the season. And he plays a really rugged style of play that you need to protect him. I mean, this is one of the only guys that you have on the roster who can bring that intensity and that, the enforcer. It's not as though he's out there starting fights, but like it's just out there like he's kind of enforcing that, you're not going to push this team around and stuff like that. And he is one of the biggest leaders of the team, and it's hard to lead on the sidelines like you saw at the end of last year. You can try, and to Kenrich's credit, for a guy who's not exactly a true like vocal leader, he tried to adapt his leadership styles to be more vocal last year when he couldn't actually physically do it on the court whenever he was hurt. But it's just different. There's a different layer to it whenever you can actually be on the court. So keeping him on the court for that leadership part and component of it is a big deal. So whatever you have to do to ensure that happens for an 82-game season and for the postseason, you've got to try to do it. So like that's why I think that maybe the Thunder will be more cautious with him on the second night of a back-to-back, because this team's complexity does change whenever he's not there. You saw at the beginning of this season, for as talented as this team is, for improved as this team is from last year, beginning of the year, whenever he wasn't there, you saw a totally different kind of vibe to this team at the beginning. Keelan asks, why does Davis Bertans play so inconsistently, even though the Thunder have given him a contract modification where it does not cost the Thunder money to play him? He's just not good, frankly. And I say that in the sense of for how this Thunder team wants to play. He cannot defend the way the Thunder want to play defense. He doesn't truly fit their style of play on either end of the floor, but specifically defense. And I hate to say it because he gives so much effort. And like most of the time when you talk about guys who can't defend, it's just because they don't try and because they just don't have that same level of engagement on that end of the floor. He is fantastically engaged. He is trying his butt off every possession. He does his best, but he's just not capable of defending it the way the Thunder want to play. They play a very tough defensive style to fit into. And so the way you get him on the floor is when the matchup, your matchup plays into your hands of, if you go back and look at Bertans' game logs and go back and look at those games that he played, when he's on the floor, 99.999% of the time, the opposition has a true to life, I'm not going to move a muscle. I'm going to sit here in this corner. I'm not going to move. I'm not going to cut. I'm not going to relocate. I'm not going to come off screens. I'm going to sit here in this corner and wait for the ball to come to me and shoot a three. Well, then, yeah, Davis Bertans can absolutely defend that. Like, he can absolutely stay on the floor defensively against that kind of a matchup. And then he can help you offensively because he can just bomb threes from anywhere on the court. So, like, the problem with Davis Bertans and the reason he's not playing, even after the contract thing, is just that it's hard to get him on the floor because you have to have a specific matchup on the other end to hide him defensively. And even then, teams will try to bring him into pick and roll action and try to get him to switch and really expose him. So as we said at the beginning of the year, you can only play him in very, very small doses and very, very small segments anyway. And so it's just not having worked out for Bertans yet. I don't think it really will. Daigneault says, have you noticed the media landscape change with the team over the past couple of weeks? There definitely seems to be a more attention put on this team. Does that translate to more audience in the post-game interviews, locker room presence, and general media attendance at the game? So yeah, I mean, obviously, more national media are talking about the Thunder. Tim McMahon was at the Thunder game a couple games ago, but there is a bigger media contingent at Thunder games, but it's not for like this exact reason. Like, yeah, Tim McMahon was there, but that's like a one-off, one national person there. It's more so due to the fact that college football's over. It's like college football ends, and now all the columnists and all the people that cover college football can come over and watch the Thunder. So, but yeah, there is a bigger media audience for the Thunder now, but it is not exactly correlated to the fact that like First Take, and then we're talking about the Thunder now. Trey Thomas says, hi, Rylan. Right now, the Thunder are number one in both three-point and free throw percentage. Can you give a shout out to the young Sun hero, Chip Engelland? Thanks, and Thunder up. So yeah, Chip Engelland is great. He's a great guy. Very nice. Very, very nice. And I think that what people maybe miss, like everyone knows, like, hey, Chip England's a big deal. Legendary shooting coach. And he was hired by the Thunder, and it's a huge deal. It's just like how much work that he puts in. Like he even monitors the Blue games, and he gets data and info from the Blue. Like he puts in the work. And one of the like more interesting practices that he does is like during pregame warmups. Like has like people take these pictures, or it's just like the consecutive shutter pictures, where it's just like and he like goes through them and looks at those pictures frame by frame and diagnoses guys' jump shots from pregame warmups. It's pretty interesting, like all that he goes through to try to help these players and help improve their percentages. And you can say it's just a coincidence, but since he's been here, the Thunder have gotten better at shooting the basketball, and it's culminated into ranking top in three-point and free throw percentage right now in the NBA. Thunder Topic says, how do you think SGA's game will translate as he ages? Obviously, he is now over reliant on athleticism and all that good stuff. So yeah, it's weird talking about Shai, projecting him as like a 30-year-old right now, because he's barely hitting his prime. He's going to be a really, really good player for a long time. But I think that his game ages really gracefully, given his style of play. He's going to need to improve his three-point shot, as mostly every player does as they get older. Even LeBron James has improved his three-point shot as he's gotten older. But I think that what helps him is that as he's become this 30-point per game scorer, I think that people might forget of like how good he is off the ball. Like he is a really, really, really good off-ball player. And so when you can, as he gets older, phase him into a more balanced role where he's like playing off ball some, and he's able to not that that's like taking a load off, but like he's able to be less strenuous and still get his off ball that can really help him too. But yeah, he'll have to add a 3-point shot to a better degree. But other than that, he'll get grace really, really graceful. He'll age gracefully, I think. Papercut Wizard on Reddit says, Hideaway Pizza should open a stand in the new arena, yes or no? Absolutely. Hideaway Pizza is the best pizza in Oklahoma City. I totally agree with that. Indian King says, if the playoffs started today, how far would OKC go, and what are their roadblocks? I think that like rebounding and second chance points are their biggest roadblocks. And the fact that they've never been in a playoff series before is a big roadblock. I think that like one of the other basketball talking points would be the game shifts to a more half-court style. This is a team that likes to get out and run. But I'm not as worried about that for a multitude of reasons. I think that their half-court offense is actually pretty good and can lead to some easy buckets for them. But also, like when you watch the Thunder, they do a good job of what I've been calling like generating transition, even off of a made bucket. Like they're getting out and running even after a made bucket, to where, yeah, it's not technically going to go down in the column of a transition point or a fast break point, but it had the same principle. The defense isn't set, and you're beating them down the floor, even off of a made shots. Like I think that they can do that some of the postseason, which I think would counteract the lack of true fast breaks and the more methodical style of play. But I think that with OKC, they can win a playoff series. and that'd be a fantastic season. And then you get to the second round and anything can happen. So I think they can win a playoff series because whenever you look at it, and specifically that first round, the Thunder will for sure have the best player on the floor. And their second and third options, and on down the line, the gap is really close. Like the gap is fairly close on their second and third options with whoever they match up with for their second and third options. Credit Boss says, who are some draft prospects you're interested in? Good question. Love the draft. Love scouting the draft. Love it all. Obviously, we're going to have a whole summer long of draft profiles and also offseason long. But also, we're going to try to sprinkle some in here on the off day for conference play starting up. We're going to sprinkle in some draft pods on the off days from now on the rest of the season. But to answer your question, I think Cody Williams truly does fit. Like it's not just like a J-Dub brother thing. He's like an actually good player. Like kind of evaluating him separately of J-Dub. He's actually a really good player and really fits that Thunder mold, very thundery. I really love Alex Sarr. I'm not sure how realistic it is though to jump up. If there was ever a draft to like jump up to number 1 or 2 or 3 to go draft him, I have number one on my board. If there was ever a draft where you could climb the mountain and get all the way up there, it would be this one. But I'm not sure how realistic it is. It's always very, very hard to trade up that high in the draft, no matter what the perception is of the draft at that time. So we'll have more questions for you from Reddit coming up. But first, I want to say right now, but good friends over at Hungryroot. Folks, check them out today. That's hungryroot.com/lockedon. You get $40% off of your first delivery and get your free veggies over there at Hungryroot because it's awesome. Like maybe you're out there and you're trying to eat healthier this new year, and you're trying to maybe eat fresher. That's where Hungryroot comes in because Hungryroot is the easiest way to get fresh, high quality food delivered right to your door. They've got healthy groceries and simple recipes all in one place. You take a fun but short quiz, and Hungryroot will get to know you. They'll get to know your goals, and they'll have everything that you like to eat. That way, they'll ask you for the flavors that you like. They'll ask you which kitchen appliances that you use and have and more stuff like that to really get to know you intimately. That way, they can tailor-make what you need and keep your preferences in mind to start building your cart with delicious recipes and all the groceries that you need for the week for those recipes. So check it out today at Hungryroot. They're going to recommend recipes and groceries that are based upon your taste. So you can try their fresh produce, their high-quality meat and seafood, their pantry staples, their healthy snacks, their sweets, and much more. So go there right now because Hungryroot goes beyond your weekly grocery haul with thousands of easy recipes and actually puts your groceries to good use before they're forgotten about in the back of your fridge. Like how many times have you thought, I'm going to get groceries, I'm going to start meal prepping, start cooking at home, and then all of a sudden time passes by, they're no longer good. Hungryroot helps you eliminate that problem. Spend less meal planning, shopping, and cooking, more time enjoying healthy food. That way you have Hungryroot. Hungryroot will be a staple of your home. Right now, Hungryroot is offering Locked On NBA listeners 40% off your first delivery and free vegetables for life. So you can go there right now to hungryroot.com. That's hungryroot.com/lockedon. And you get 40% off your first delivery and you get your free vegetables. So check it out today at hungryroot.com/lockedon. Don't forget to use our link so they know that we sent you. Check them out today at Hungryroot. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. BJ Beamer said that when will the Thunder put Oos back in the NBA, and what have you thought of his season so far? So far, I think that he's been a lot better in the G League. I think that he's been vastly improved. And people are not going to really notice it because it's the G League. Like people don't typically pay attention to the G League. I've seen all of his G League games from last year and this year. I've been following him very closely at both levels. And the difference for Ousmane Dieng is not necessarily like stat-based. Like it's not going to be found in the stat sheet. I mean, it's 16 points for him per game, and nothing is truly eye-popping in that category. He's not shooting the ball well from three right now in the G League. But what is eye-popping is his complete overhaul of aggression, of offensive force, specifically at the rim. At the rim this year, he is shooting 62% in the G League. He is one dunk away from topping his career high. So you know that Ousmane Dieng played a lot of games in the G League last year. And in that entire season, he had 20 dunks total. He's got 20 dunks right now. You know, he's got 20 dunks right now in the G, and he's played 11 games. So the decisiveness, the decision-making has all improved. I think that his on-ball defense has improved as well. I think that the only thing that you could continue to see get better from him would be he's got to get more physical on the glass. And inside, I think that he has better athleticism inside defensively than what he's shown so far, where it's like right now he's really focused on like walling up at the rim, putting his hands up and just being in the way. I would wonder if maybe he kind of like used his leaping ability to like deter shots at the rim more, what that would look like. Can he do that without fouling, or is it best to stay planted? I'd be curious to see him work on that a little bit. But yeah, rebounding is like the big thing that I think that he can really improve on, and just consistent shot making. He pulls off these like step back threes in the G League, which are really fun to watch. And he mentioned how the step back three was a kind of a big part of his game growing up and as a young player. But he got away from that a lot last year because that's not who his role was meant to be. But now he's starting to slowly add it back to his NBA game. And I think that people, one, forget how young he is, but two, forget that like he's trying to just change completely the way he's always played basketball. Like even right now, he's playing for the G League, and like he is starting because he's an NBA player, but he's not playing like insane starter minutes because the whole point of what they're trying to do this year. Last year was more so like just get him reps. This year it feels more honed in on crafting a tailor-made plan for Ousmane Dieng, where they're playing him in these short bursts, like these 5-minute, 6-minute bursts at a time, to kind of prep him for what it will be like when he's called up to the NBA. Because that's all he's going to do in the NBA is play in these short bursts. And so, Cam Woods has explained how hard that is to like be ready to play the second you get back in the game. You can't use those first 2 minutes of let's say, cardio to get ramped up and ready to play again. You've just got to be ready. And as the season has gone on, he's gotten a lot better at that. And you saw it whenever he got a chance at the NBA level. He had a really good game. He had a podium game at the NBA level this season. So I think there's overall aggression and overall just understanding of how athletic he is has gotten better, if that makes sense. Because last year, even in the G League, there were times where he would shy away. There were times where he just float and be passive. This year, he's really going and challenging guys. And he had a poster of Jack White that was awesome in the last South Bay game. They play again tonight, and actually, this could be a nice, kind of newser for you guys to watch the Blue if you're interested on the G League website. The Thunder play at 6:30 because on the East Coast. The Blue are on the West Coast playing in Nevada, playing against the G League Ignite. So you can go watch all the draft talent that the Ignite have, and watch News and watch the Thunder G League team with the OKC Blue. So check them out there. Thunder Topic says, any advice for how to get into NBA media? How did you become the host of Locked On Thunder, etc.? There's no magic advice I can give you, honestly. I would say number one would be start. I was lucky enough that I knew from the third grade on that I wanted to do this. So in high school, I was doing podcasts that no one listened to, and they were really bad, and people made fun of me for doing podcasts in high school. Hello, how are you doing? But yeah, just start, because you're going to be bad. Like the bottom line is you're going to be bad, and you can still say that I'm bad right now, but I'm a lot better than I was in high school, a lot better than I was in college. And so just start and get your reps in. It'll help you get over the first bit of nervous energy, but also to help you find your voice. Like the way that I did podcast, even just looking in the short term of this show, the way I did podcast covering this team in the bubble is entirely different than I do now. So like you're as you progress, as you do more shows, you're going to find out what your style is and find out what you like to talk about, what you like to, how you like to present things, how you like to push forward a conversation. And that's going to be a big key for podcasting. And writing is the same thing. Writing, you're going to find how you like to present things in the written word. And so like just the biggest thing is just to start and just to get your reps in and to just learn about yourself, learn about the topic at hand, and learn what people like to hear about. And hopefully you can tap into that as well. I would also say that just like listening and consuming other people's work also helps. Just like, seeing Dan Patrick interview people, for example, the way that Dan Patrick handles himself and lets an interview or a guest have space to operate. I think that I try to implement that whenever I have a guest on. It's just like, you guys hear me every single day. We do a podcast every day. 99% of the time, it's just me. So whenever we have a guest on a couple times a month, then I'm going to try to give them that kind of room and give them that kind of runway to present their insight and present their thoughts, because you know my thoughts on the topic, and we'll have plenty of times to get to my thoughts on that topic. So it's just stuff like that. I mean, you can really just start. In this day and age, you can become a TikToker, a YouTuber, a podcaster, a writer in a matter of seconds. You can do it by yourself. You can do it with people. It is so easy and it's so accessible. So there's never been a better time to start to do this. You're not recording this on floppy disk. You're not recording this on Amtraks and everything else. So I would just say start. And the Thunder thing, I always wanted to do Locked On Thunder, but it wasn't available at the time that I joined Locked On. So I was doing Locked On Royals, which was I was not good at. It's very tough to talk about baseball. But the person who was doing Locked On Thunder left, and so I just came in and took over Locked On Thunder because frankly, there were a few people who had the show that were inconsistent and didn't post and would quickly leave. And I thought that you guys deserved a more consistent product, and hopefully, of course, I know I've been able to provide consistency. Hopefully, I've been able to provide entertainment for you all, at least a little bit. So it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. And here's to many more Locked On Thunder podcasts. So I hope that answers your question. Again, I can't give you some like just ingenious wisdom on this, but consistency and starting, I think, is the two biggest things to deliver for yourself. And then you'll get better and better as you go. So it was a lot of fun. Hopefully that answers your question. We're going to have a recap show talking about the Brooklyn Nets game tonight. Very fun. Very fun. And then on Monday, we're going to get to the rest of your questions. So I know we didn't get to all of them, but we'll get to the rest of them on Monday as we do another show 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, plus bonus podcasts to recap games on the weekend. So check it out. Subscribe for free across all podcasting platforms, including on YouTube, so you never miss an episode. And until tomorrow, be good and be good to